Please make yourself comfortable, grab a seat for the next session, next presentation. If you're joining us over Zoom, welcome in to using IBM Watson Assistant in Moodle. This will be facilitated by Yamna and Vanessa from Knowledge One, and I'll be passing it to them in just a second. Just wanted to say a word about engagement. If you're joining us via Zoom, welcome in that space. You're more than welcome to jump in with questions or comments by speaking. So just raise a virtual hand during the Q&A and you'll be able to just jump right in and speak directly to our facilitators. And of course, if you're in the space, raise your actual hand and we'll get a mic to you so that folks can hear you here. Okay, over to you, Yamna, Vanessa, welcome.
Hello. So welcome to the presentation, Pedagogical Recommendation and Support using IBM Watson Assistant in Moodle. This presentation is created by Vanessa McCains and Yamna Teres. So I am Director of Academic Innovation and Technologies in Knowledge One in Concordia. I got the Moodle Educator Certificate last year, and I am passionate by supporting teams and professors in the development of online courses and integration of innovative technologies.
So hi, I'm Vanessa McCants. I am a learning experience designer at Knowledge One, and I'm also the UDL specialist. So that's Universal Design for Learning. I work with my colleagues and our clients and profs that we work with and help them make their courses accessible.
So this presentation will start by an introduction to the use of chatbots in education, challenges and adopted technologies. We are going to present 2 examples of chatbots, the professor support and the activities recommender. The 2 intelligent assistant or chatbots are integrated into Moodle. They are developed using IBM Watson Assistant Technology.
Okay, so there are 2 types of chatbots. There are flow-based and there are AI chatbots. So flow-based chatbots do use something called natural language processing technology, and they also use predetermined information. A lot of times it's questions and answers or a menu. So like with our online example from previous, if you've ever sort of had a chatbot ask you like, what can I help you with? And you have some options and you click it and you sort of filter through a system. A lot of the time it's predetermined questions with predetermined answers. And sometimes you're frustrated, they're not answering any of your questions and you start to try to type in something. Sometimes they'll recognize a keyword and they'll be able to filter you to a correct answer. If not, you get passed on to a human. There's another type of chatbot, a little bit more sophisticated, that uses AI. So along with the natural language processing technology, it also uses natural language understanding, machine learning, and the artificial intelligence. And basically, it takes user data, it analyzes it along with data that's been programmed into it and shared with it. And the more it interacts with people, the more it builds a knowledge base and the better and more efficient it will become. And so like Yamna mentioned at Knowledge One in Concordia, we're using IBM Watson, and that's the first type of chatbot, the one where we sort of predetermine everything that's going to go into it and what its uses are for. So in education, the main uses of chatbots have been things like teachers and tutors, student support, teacher support, an administrative tool, and a feedback collector. So when we're talking about teacher and tutors, it's really to help students learn better and look at personalized learning. So it takes really how students are answering questions and how they're displaying their understanding and really going from there and being able to say, okay, you got that question wrong, so they can recommend, review activities or information and really sort of scaffold their learning. And this will actually increase uptake and retention and self-efficiency later on in the road. And it can also, poke and prod students and ask them questions and be like, hey, I don't know the answer, you tell me. And it forces the student to teach the chatbot, and that's how the student will learn. They can also facilitate things like group discussions where they will pose a question and sort of facilitate any discourse that happens. And of course, though, they can have sort of motivational purposes as well. So they give feedback to people like, great job. And so just that kind of positive reinforcement there. For student support, it's a little bit more like a Q&A or a frequently asked questions sort of hub of go-to. So things like agenda, when is my assignment due? what's the next, event, the next lesson? And they can sort of target you with feedback in that regard, like pushes, like, oh, remember, this is due next week. Then similarly, there's teacher support. So it's helping teachers sort of with more mundane tasks and automated things. Again, answering student questions frequently asked, things like that, even some automatic grading in a way. Then there's administrative tools that a lot of institutions use. So when students are like, how do I register for this course? What services are available? This is something that quick fire answers you can get, and you don't have to bog down any sort of human representative. And of course, we have a feedback collector, so it can take all this data and process it and give the users, upfront more information. And so we kind of use it as a teacher support administrative tool right now for our purposes. So there are some ethical concerns of chatbots in education for sure. So there's things like, are the answers provided accurate? Can we trust the technology? Is it transparent? There's also data and privacy uses, like are they collecting everything I'm putting in? There's also issues with user attitude. So do people really want to work with chatbots? Do they like it? Some studies have shown that like students will get a little bit bored with it. It's kind of sort of repetitive and mundane in that way. And so they'll discontinue use. Is the new tool being evaluated effectively? So are we really looking at how well it's being used or how often, right? Because you can have this great shiny tool, but no one's using it. So then there are some programming issues as well. Are they properly tested? There's errors and failures. Are they being properly managed? And of course, in the education context, when we talk about like personalized learning, there's a lot of upfront work that has to be done by teachers and professors to support all that. So they're the ones supplying content that needs to be programmed in to a chatbot for it to actually have any function. And then there's supervision and maintenance issues. So that's things like checking the accuracy of answers, right? Things change pretty fast in our world, especially in the last couple of years. So things need to be updated constantly. So it's just a lot of work.
So to develop our chatbots, our intelligent assistant, I'm going to start with the professor support, and later Vanessa will talk about activities recommender. We use the IBM Watson Assistant service, which is the service provided by IBM to create chatbots. It has two models, the dialogue skill and actual skills. So the description given by IBM to IBM Watson Assistant is the service that is going to be used to develop chatbots is IBM Watson Assistant is built on deep learning, machine learning, and natural language processing models to understand question, find or search the best answers, and complete the user's intent action. So Watson uses intent classification and entity recognition to better understand users' intent and select the appropriate dialogue skill or transfer the user to a human agent when needed. Action skill is using a different technology based on question and option provided to users. In any case, IBM Watson Assistant is used to provide specific support for specific domains, and it contains the specific knowledge added by the chatbot developer to the chatbot itself. So what is an intent? An intent is just the purpose, the goal of the question added by the user to the chatbot. In the screenshot, there is a list of intents. In the example, there is a quiz. And we have 5 examples of questions that are added by the chatbot developer. So in this case, if we are using IBM Watson Assistant, of course, you don't need to add all the questions because you don't know what are the questions they are going to be asked by the users. But IBM Watson Assistant is able to figure out using your own question added to the intent to figure out which one of the intents is going to be used. Entities are used to provide more context and even synonyms. For example, different types of forums are available in Moodle. So when somebody is asking about a forum, we would like to know what type of forum or groups in Moodle. We will see that with an example. There are multiple ways to create groups in Moodle. So the intents are going to be helpful to clarify the intent, the entities are going to be helpful to clarify the intents of the users. We are going to talk now about the dialogue skill. So as described by IBM, the dialogue skill uses the intents that are identified in the user input plus the context from the application to interact with the user and ultimately provide a useful response which is saved in the dialog box. So here you have an example of a dialog box. As you can see, all the answers provided by the chatbot are already added by the chatbot, the chatbot developer to those boxes. IBM describes action skills as it represents the tasks you want your assistant to help your customers with. Each action contains a series of steps that represent individual exchanges with a customer. So in response to user request, an action skill comprises the interaction between a customer and the assistant about a particular question or request. This interaction begins by the user input that starts with the action, and later the chatbot will add more questions to gather more information about the intent of the user. Of course, everybody heard about chatbot, the new chatbot, ChatGPT. And some of us are scared or impressed with this new technology. So we are going to compare a little bit the ChatGPT with IBM Watson Assistant. So actually, IBM Watson Assistant is a natural language processing system that can be used to create a dialogue and interact with user in a natural language and answers question in a specific domain. This is the big difference. So as you saw in the previous slides, answers are in the boxes. But with ChatGPT, the generative pre-trained transformer, it is an artificial intelligence powered chatbot model developed by OpenAI, launched in November 2022, and it is trained in a massive amount of text data and able to generate human-like text based on the user request. So it generates the answers, unlike IBM Watson Assistant. So the first case we are going to talk about is the professor support. So it's going to demonstrate the possibility of integrating chatbots into Moodle courses, MOOCs, or trainings in order to enhance learning, facilitate content browsing, and save time when answering frequently asked questions. I will start with the presentation of the context and the goals, and later I will present the chatbot itself. So Professor Support is a prototype developed after the Econ Express project. Actually, the Econ Express project was created in collaboration with Concordia University to support profs developing and managing their online courses using Moodle during the pandemic. So initially, to support profs, we created a Moodle course called Professor Support and Training to present the content, and we enrolled the profs. But with time, and the new challenges, of course, we were adding more and more content. So the Professor Support and Training course became huge with a lot of information to navigate. The idea was to create a prototype of an interactive chatbot to support profs and even the team to look for the appropriate information and to explore the capabilities of IBM Watson Assistant. Goals are answering questions or providing content from selected topics, engaging exploration by recommending relevant topics, and bringing into the conversation more documentation, links to that documentation, and even multimedia production like pictures or videos. And we are going to see that with the chatbot. So the professor support was developed with IBM Watson Assistant using the dialogue skill technology. Its name is Alisa. It's available in the Moodle dashboard, and it starts with the recommendation for an online course. After that, it provides a list of topics. For each topic, it provides option, recommendation, links to documentation, multimedia production, and so on. And we are going to take a look on this chatbot.
Welcome! In this video, we'll look at how to create groups automatically. You may want students to work in groups for various activities throughout the semester.
So what happened there? Put my mic on. So what happened there was a user interacted with the chatbot, asked their name, input it, and they started, answering questions. And you saw there was sort of menu options that they clicked on to get information, and they were given a video with further information for them.
Okay, so we saw the different option of using the chatbot, but also the user can type his own request to the chatbot, and the chatbot will look for the appropriate dialogue to pick up and give us the answers about the user's intent. Okay, so Vanessa now is going to talk about activities recommender.
So a little context here. At eConcordia, we were moving our learning management system over to Moodle. So we had to migrate courses, old courses, and develop new courses for Moodle. And as all our learning experience designers were learning about Moodle while they had to do this, I had this great idea. I was like, let's create a resource for them, help them figure out, what activities we used to do on our learning management system and how it translates into Moodle now. And I really wanted to find sort of a resource that was a one-stop shop. So I thought, maybe I can do some sort of flow map, sort of flow chart, and help them decide, okay, what's the best use? What happened was we would start with a question, something like, is it a group assignment, yes or no? And then it would branch off. Does it need peer grading, yes or no? And every time I asked a question, it created a new branch, and it got pretty hectic. This was version 1 of how do we figure out what's the best use for an assignment? It just got worse from there because there's so many activities, graded, ungraded, peer grading, no peer grading. What do we want from the students? That we ended up with 7 different maps. And so there is individual assignment, instructor graded, group assignment, instructor graded, individual assignment, peer graded, group assignment, peer graded, automatically graded assignments, ungraded knowledge checks, ungraded activities. These maps were still chaotic and nobody was going to be able to follow them, and it was just sort of madness in my mind. So Yamna, in her infinite wisdom, was like, well, let's just make a chatbot. It just, of course, so simple. So we called it the activities recommender, and we're going to show a little presentation again, like how someone would interact with it. So it's in the corner of the screen, it pops up, says hi, and very politely asks your name. And then again, it starts with what kind of assignment or activity are you looking, to develop? And it goes from there. And it's just a series of yes and no questions. And so it sort of takes them through the process. Okay, do you need this? Do you need that? Does it need to look a certain way? Is it peer grading? And so it takes them all through that, and eventually they are recommended a type of activity, and we also provided them with links to documentation of how to set up this activity in Moodle, because of course we were still learning how to use Moodle. So we did get feedback for our version 1, and there was positive feedback. So it's a useful tool. It was something we needed. It was easy to use and navigate. But maybe the questions weren't worded as well as they could have been. And the yes and no answer process was very limited. People wanted to type in their own questions. And because of the yes and no structure, they really weren't getting anywhere with the chatbot. So moving forward, we are working on a version 2. So we're going to reword the questions to be more specific. And we're also going to take away the yes or no options and provide more targeted options for users to click through. And hopefully it'll be more use cases in there.
So we have a question for you. If you are planning to add a chatbot to your Moodle course, what will be the mission of your chatbot?
Could be theoretical.
How it is going to help you or help your students? I can't see, it's a little far from me. No, there is no
Are there
chat.
any answers?
Do you see the chat? The question is, the answers are actually in the chat. No comment.
I would like a chatbot where you can choose authoring tools. So like the same thing, but instead of Moodle activities, it would help you choose authoring tools for developing online learning content. So I think that would be like a good. There's another one.
Noted. Noted for version 2, I mean.
Hi, lots of fun stuff with this. I would be interested in Moodle to see if, as an instructor, if I implemented something in my Moodle course and I wanted to find out if it's been working, if the students appreciated it, if there were certain components that they liked about it, that I could ask that question, the students could branch to certain different answers, and I could find out, okay, great, I'm going to use that in the next iteration of my course.
Oh, nice. That's a good answer.
A little check-in
Feedback,
box.
it's like, yeah, check-in box.
Yeah.
Feedback, immediate feedback from an instructor's perspective.
Absolutely.
Someone in the chat, I believe, said using the chatbot to have dialogue with students about what they're learning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, feedback is great for any sort of course development and iterations as well. You know, we always want to improve the student experience. So those are great uses.
Okay, I think we are good.
Mhm.
Okay. So chatbots, they can be valuable educational tools. They can be used for teaching and learning, administrative tasks, student assessment to provide an easy and quick access to educational information about recruitment, orientation, admission process, scholarship, well-being support services, registration, tuition fees, online learning management system, documentation, tutorials, etc. Chatbots vary in design, features, purpose, and target audience. Incorporating intelligent chatbots can make courses more engaging by providing personalized support and feedback to students and by making the course more interactive and responsive to students' needs. So basically, the goal is not to replace teachers at all, but to facilitate the learning and to answer, for example, frequently asked questions. Profs, in that case, will save a lot of time answering similar questions, for example. So here are our references for the use of chatbots in education. Thank you, and it is going to be nice if you are going to ask us any question about the use of chatbots in education and basically their integration into Moodle courses. Thank you.
Any questions at all in the space or on Zoom?
So to develop this, is this all code or is this like an interface that you're like working with?
Actually, basically, it is an interface we can use to add the question or what Watson call intents and to add the dialogues, but we can develop a little bit of code to make the chatbot a little smarter, to get to remember what is happening in the context, for example, to use variables and things like that. So basically, we can use PHP language to add some instruction to the chatbot, and we can use HTML code to add, like, for example, we added the links, the videos with HTML code. Basically, it's not so difficult for somebody who is able to develop, but if you are not able to develop, that's okay. Also, you can create your own chatbot without a need to develop anything and to code anything.
We have another question from Kate in the chat here saying, would you consider integrating chat boxes in language learning for practice?
Yes, for sure. I mean, if we look at something like Duolingo, they already kind of use it. So it could be where it's beginner level and it's a little bit easier to set up where you're programming in. So like question and there's an expected answer to that, like, hello, how are you? The more complex it gets with language level skills, of course, the more complex it is to program it and anticipate that. You may want to bring in sort of the AI chatbot, which has a lot more power behind it. But yeah, for sure, for language courses, absolutely.
Hi, so that brings me to kind of think about something else where we've got different authoring tools, different quizzing tools, different modules or components that you can put into Moodle. Do you have any thoughts about advantages, disadvantages of using a chatbot for this flow type chatbot for quizzing, sort of in a scenario-based quizzing, so that you could ask a question and then it's a choose your own adventure branching responses type formative evaluation, as opposed to using, say, one of the Moodle components or a rapid authoring tool for that sort of thing? Do you see any advantages, disadvantages, opportunities here with using a chatbot versus one of these other options?
So I would see it more as sort of having agency in your learning, maybe not sort of an assessment, but really sort of catering to your specific style of learning, your preferences, what information you're looking for. You know, like maybe a course is set up so you don't have to go sort of chronologically, right? And it can help you jump around, like, I'm interested more in this, and it can maybe supply you with extra information. For assessment, for me, the thing that I'm thinking of is, how do we connect it to the LMS to track it all? So there might need some intervention on that end, because we can record answers, but to then be able to grade it, to score it, is a more high-tech, difficult issue, and I don't understand that magic. But yeah, so there might be something there, yeah. Performative, yeah, so it's like where you have the agency and it supports you, and it can also check, like, are you understanding it correctly? If not, go back and check this section, for sure, absolutely. That's right, the non-graded on that list of things, yes.
Oh, we have another question in the chat asking, do you think that chatbots will ever be able to access complex user-generated writing, for example, paragraphs?
Yes, the AI chatbots.
To assess complex user-generated writing. Yeah, there is some work on the assessment of students.
Or access.
Access or assess? I can
Access.
Access, it's super properly.
Oh, no, assess. Oh, no, it is assess.
Yeah.
They want to assess.
Graded
Okay.
assessment, you mean, in your question, for example? Yeah, there is some work on that, and people, they are trying to develop some intelligent tools. But I still think it's a complex task.
It is.
Yeah.
We have things.
We need professor for that.
There are things like plagiarism checking, right now, where they can sort of scan your, like, student submitted work for plagiarism in that regard, assessing it. But to assess sort of the quality of an answer is a little bit harder if you don't have all the variants programmed in right now. Yeah.
I mean, they can be helpful to give a little bit of feedback, but I think in this case, we need professors to do this task. We definitely need the professor. So the chatbot basically is going to help the professor, but not to replace the professor. There are still some stuff which is a human, like critical thinking, like innovation. So that kind of stuff is a little far away from chatbots and intelligent tools to be able to create that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much once again to our presenters. We're going to take a very short break and then we will switch over to, I believe, our final panel of the day. So thank you so much and we'll be right back. Thanks to those on Zoom.